God is the love in which I forgive. Lesson 46, A Course in Miracles. This workbook is taking us through a relief from illusions. And if you want relief from your illusions of the world, could you forgive it? Could you notice all the condemnation you have of people, places, and things in the world? That, it's suggested in this lesson, is binding you to it. It's binding you to it. The negative feelings which we carry bind us to people, places, and things. And if we can release those negative feelings, we'll come into a joyful communion with those things or an accepting communion. Keep releasing as much as you want, go higher and higher. There's no limit that I know of. So, in this practice today, could you just allow some people who you don't like? What it says to come to mind and begin to practice allowing some feelings to come up. Uh, so anyone, it's not about have I forgiven them a little bit or a lot. Anyone we have not completely forgiven, we are still bound to. It's either a full experience of love with them or other than that. So we're going to allow people to come to mind. You can start now. Who haven't I forgiven? Who don't I like? Who am I still condemning? It could even be situations or things. And we'll just go through these one at a time and start to allow our feelings to come up. We're going to first, let's release some negative feelings, and then we'll release some positive resistance, some resistance to the positive feeling. And come to this lesson, God is the love in which I forgive. So we'll just start with our eyes closed and just repeating the idea of today. God is the love in which I forgive. Could you allow yourself just to be with that idea? And you might even notice feelings about that idea. It's okay, allowing those up. Could you be and allow this idea, God is the love in which I forgive? God is the love in which I forgive. And could you open up and just allow people to come to mind now who you haven't forgiven, who you're condemning, who you don't like? If there's anything other than love when a person comes to mind, they're a suitable candidate for this release. You might notice there's plenty of people. If you're doing this properly, there will be plenty of people, plenty of situations, plenty of things for which there's still other than love. And that's okay. That's what this releasing is about. That's what this lesson is about. So, could you open up one of these people? Just take one of these people for now. Anyone's fine. And can you notice any condemnation of this person? Any criticalness, any not liking them, anything other than love? Just witnessing those kinds of thoughts. It's okay without judgment or moralization, just noticing what comes up. And could you go behind the appearances, the scenes, the thoughts about why you don't like them or why you can't love them? And could you allow the energy that's been stored and carried, the binding, the glue to come up, that feeling? And could you begin to unstick it just by feeling that feeling, just for now? Could you let that feeling be there, ignoring the thoughts, letting that energy come up? And could you surrender that feeling to love? Just turn it over. It's not you which forgives, it's just a letting go. and finding love there. Would you let go of this energy and find what's there when it's gone? When could you let go and be in the love that is there in which you forgive? And God is the love in which I forgive. Though maybe I haven't forgiven some people. Maybe I still don't like them, still condemn them, still criticize them. Even if it's just a little, that personal work, take somebody, could be the same person, who you still find yourself bound to through condemnation or other than love. And what ideas, what thoughts have you been clinging to or carrying about this person that's other than love, that's condemning, not liking, any aversion you have to this person? And without making good or bad of that, could you go behind the thoughts, the perceptions, the words and sounds in the mind, and notice the feeling that's there for you? What's coming up? Could you allow it up? And you don't need to label it, and it's okay if you can't, if you do. Mostly, could you feel what's coming up? Could you be with this feeling so it can unstick, unbind, and move? And could you just sit with this energy as it dissipates? It's being done for you if you allow it. Could you just bring this energy to the surface, feel it, let it flow? And could you release any of this energy? Just release it to love in which you forgive. Would you release this energy? Just turn it over. When could you release and be in God, in the love in which you forgive? And God is the love in which I forgive. Just being with that idea for a moment. God is the love in which I forgive. Though I haven't forgiven, I'm still condemning this person, this situation, that thing. Just noticing whatever comes to mind. That's the perfect thing for this lesson. Who are there? What are there other than love, thoughts, and feelings with? Anyone or thing will do. Taking one of those, what good reason do you have not to like them, not to love them, to condemn them? Is there any convincing thoughts for why you would withhold forgiveness or love? And that's okay without making right or wrong of what's coming up for you now. Could you begin to let the thoughts about it drift by and just notice any energy that's carried or stored? Could you open up this bag of energy you've been carrying, this feeling other than love, whatever it is, wherever it is? And could you just feel it? Could you just be aware of it? And could you even surrender this feeling, this energy? And you might even say, God is the love in which I forgive you, naming the person, place, or thing. Would you surrender this energy and perhaps even mention, God is the love in which I forgive you, naming them? When could you surrender the energy other than God being in the love, being the love in which I forgive you, person, whatever their name is? And God is the love in which I forgive. Could you just allow that thought to the surface, that idea? Would you be with it? God is the love in which I forgive. And this lesson says the only person you're forgiving is yourself. There's this idea that there's all these different people out there, that they're other than me, other than my creation, other than a oneness, a seeming separation. So to forgive any of them is simply forgiving yourself. That's what the lesson's suggesting. But you might even have some things you're condemning or not liking about yourself. So, taking this idea, God is the love in which I forgive, is there anything other than love for yourself, your body, your personality, whatever you think is a separate you? Any condemning it, any attacking it, any withholding forgiveness for that which you identify as separate, as you? And that's okay. Without judging it or moralizing about it, could you just notice how it feels behind this withholding love, condemning, or not liking your identity as a separate self? Could you allow any energy to come up that's been stored or carried, just feeling it? And could you let that energy run, let it unstick, let it be unbound, just by noticing it, sitting with it, feeling it? And could you let go of that energy, that binding? Perhaps even saying to yourself, God is the love with which I love myself, forgive myself. Would you let go of that energy if you could? Maybe experiencing God is the love in which I love myself. with which I love myself, forgive myself. When could you let go of this condemnation and withholding of love, this energy, and be blessed by love? And it might happen, it might not. It's okay. Be a lot of resistance, a lot of energy. And that's okay. This is all about allowing that to move. Could you just be for a moment, though, with this idea God is the love in which I forgive? Just noticing, holding this idea for a moment God is the love in which I forgive. And what have you not forgiven about your separate identity? This idea of a separate self, what's bad about it, what's wrong with it, what don't you like about it, any condemnation of that which you perceive as you. And could you begin to just feel what it feels like to be condemning yourself, this idea of you, just ignoring the thoughts? Could you welcome this feeling that's been binding, gluing, sticking you to other than forgiveness? Could you welcome the feeling so it can start to unbind just by feeling it, noticing it, sitting with it? Could you welcome more of this feeling? Any that's left? Could be more, could be lightning. Whatever's there, could you feel it, welcome it, watch it? And could you release this energy of self condemnation? You might even say, God is the love in which I forgive myself as you release. Would you release anything other than love for yourself, withholding love? Would you release any of this energy of condemnation of yourself? When could you release? Just check in. God is the love in which I forgive myself. Have you released? Have you forgiven? And it's not about pretending. You'll either know it or not. God is the love in which I forgive. Just repeating the idea of the day to yourself as you be what you are. God is the love in which I forgive. God is the love in which I forgive. And once again, just noticing what you think you are as a person. Perhaps you perceive yourself as separate from others, and you have an identity, a name, a body, and things that go with it. Does it seem like that? And is there anything you've been holding, like condemnation, criticism, other than forgiveness, dislike about anything in your body, your being, your personality? that you seem to be. And could you allow the energy behind those kinds of thoughts and perceptions to arise, to come out of storage, to open up? And could you allow yourself to feel that energy, to notice it, to let it start to open up and unbind you just by feeling it, noticing it, whatever it is, wherever it is? Could you, for a moment of eternity, allow this feeling so it can move, unstick? It's the glue to the illusion. Could you let it be there so it can start to loosen up, start to move? Could you just feel it? And you never have to. And could you surrender this glue, this energy, this illusion? Would you surrender it if you could? Perhaps even saying to yourself, bringing this energy to God, the love in which you forgive yourself. God is the love in which I forgive myself. When could you surrender condemnation and illusion around what you seem to be? Perhaps even saying, God is the love in which I forgive myself. And just noticing this energy, allowing it to move. Maybe it lightens, maybe it releases. Are you experiencing God is the love in which I forgive at all? A lot? None of it? Just noticing, just noticing, just feeling. And could you be with this idea that God is the love in which I forgive? And please feel free to play with this throughout the day as people come into your awareness, into thought, or in a seeming physical appearance. And there's other than love there. Could you release and be with this idea God is the love in which I forgive you, naming them? Could you notice what comes up for you today where you're condemning or having other than love for yourself, your identity, what you're choosing to identify with as a separate body or being? Could you notice that, allow it up, release it, and perhaps bring the idea in God is the love in which I forgive myself? These lessons, these ideas are here for you. Use what comes up, allow it, and release to have an experience of what's there once the illusion is gone. Well done releasing. And if you'd like to release a whole lot more of this illusion, a whole lot more of the binds to the illusion, this energy, these feelings, please join us at release2results.com. We have sessions to release this negative energy every day, and you can join us for 14 days for free. Bring up any topics, anything other than love and forgiveness you'd like to release. I'll be happy to facilitate the session for you. And oftentimes, when you bring up something, turns out some of us are carrying that too. Thanks for helping us release. Thanks for being in service to what you are by releasing what you are not. Release2results.com, or tune in to these sessions as they continue here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, for releasing.